Okay, so um, I just want to say we're going to start off with the Seder is supposed to be for family. Now, this year I know that many people do not have precious, beloved members of the family that could not be a part of it. And we have to stress to those that will be a part of it that they represent all the family members, the Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach, it says in the Torah, was only allowed for members of a Chabura. And it's a whole sugya in the Gemara in Pesachim, but you couldn't register late. In other words, you had to register before Pesach because there was a concept of a family unit, and it's called Sel Bais Avos. Bais Avos is the continuation. Those that heard what we were talking about before of a Bais Av means a family unit. And this year that we don't have all of our exact family units, so I think that what we have to do is to try to strengthen our family unit with the people that we do have. And we're going to go through the 15 steps of the Seder. So we did it a couple of, about 2 weeks ago, I think, already. So I'm not going to do what we did already. But what we're going to do is like this. I'm going to tell you some things that maybe not everybody knows. So first of all, it's really mabish hurts to say this, but all the Mefarshim and the Shulchan Aruch say that as soon as you come home from shul, quote unquote, the Seder is supposed to be, the Seder table is supposed to be set. So the way to be Mekayim that this year is that we should set it even if we're not going to shul, and we should go wherever we're going, into the other room or even at the Seder table to daven, so that we can come to the Seder table. And this is a little bit like with the Korban Pesach as well, where everything was set and everything was in a certain order. It had to be done in a certain order. Now, the Seder can't begin before, I'm going to send out the Zmanim, Linetta tomorrow probably. We're going to send out the Zmanim to the shul and to anybody else that's on our list. So the Seder can't start. That means Kiddush at the Seder can't start until the earliest 50 minutes, 50, after Shkia. So I don't really have that in front of me right now, but we could probably figure it out. I'm not going to figure it out because we're going to send it out. No, I don't want to make cheshbonis now. It takes time. So the minhag is to have a white tablecloth because it symbolizes purity, just like the kittel. Now, I unfortunately did have to tell some people that are in Avelus that the minhag in most of Klal Yisrael is that an avel during the Shana does not wear a kittel. And the converse of that is that a chassan in his Shana Rishina also doesn't wear a kittel. So it's interesting that the Vilna Gaon has a different take on this. The reason that most Mefarshim give is because the kittel is a beged mason. It's the beged of the dead. And in fact, I was just reading, it's Rav Schwab's 25th yard site. So Rav Schwab, the Rav of Washington Heights, the Rav of the Yekisha community in Washington Heights, Kehillas Yeshurim. So apparently he used to point to his kittel and he said, this is the kittel that I'm wearing here, and this is the kittel that I'm going to be buried in. Now, that's probably like a Yekisha thing, because the Vilna Gaon said that you're not supposed to show the kittel as a beged mason, because it's supposed to be, if anything, something that represents purity, that's tahara. It represents regality, royalty, because we're all supposed to be kings. So there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect there between two different approaches to the kittel. Okay, let's go a little bit further. We said that there's a Seder, there's an order. So before the sitting down to Seder, maybe this year everybody will just have a very few people at the Seder, but wherever anybody sits should be decided in advance. And it's interesting, it's brought from the Chassam Sofer that the minhag was that everybody should have a set seat, because it's a symbol of, I was talking about before Arichos, some people were there, we're listening there. We're all here or there, but that there's a Seder to everything that we say this night. Okay, now, I want to give you just, if you want, you could write this down. I may still be sending out some stuff, but these are things that have to be on the table ready to go. Seder plate, and the Seder plate has everything arranged. a bowl of salt water, otherwise known in Yiddish as Salzwasser, charaises. So charaises, the traditional charaises is apples, nuts, cinnamon, spices, and then with wine, red wine, by the way. The boxes of matzah should be open, whatever kind of matzahs you use. That you should also check that you have shleimin and they're not kefulim. Kefulim means that they're doubled over. I should have had a picture for you, but I don't have one in front of me. But the kefulim means that it may actually be, you can't even eat it on Pesach. It might even be chametz because it means that it wasn't baked properly. And shleimin means that you have to have before you break the matzah, so it has to be whole. So you have to try to make sure that you're going to have shleimin for the seder, and really only one person has to have shleimin. That's the honest truth. But if you have a small seder and you can give everybody 3 whole matzahs, by the way, the Gra holds only 2 matzahs. Chaim Berliner's only 2 matzahs. Okay, then bottles of wine that are already opened before Yom Tif, and then a kais shel elio. We'll talk about that in a moment. And now this is very, very important. Everybody should have enough matzahs and everything to take from at the Seder, because there's a kind of like also a little bit of a disconnect that it says that the leader of the Seder should give out to everybody at the table. Now, if you have, Baruch Hashem, a big family and you zeicha that they're all together this year for Pesach, so you have to be very careful because there's not enough from the 3 matzahs to give everybody 2 kazesim, even 1 kazayas, and there's not going to be enough from 1 plate of Morah for everybody, etc. So you have to have throughout the Seder table enough for everybody. So that's another thing that should be on the table. Now, I forgot. I'm just look at my notes over here. The other reason that we wear kittel is because the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur also wore white, and we are like Kohanim Gedolim, every one of us, as I mentioned before the pasuk, V'atam tihyu li mamlechas Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh, and that mitzvah is because on Yom Kippur we become excuse me, like malachim by not eating, and at the Seder and on Pesach we become malachim b'dafka by eating. That's how we're in a high madrega. Okay. Now there are 3 classic ways to arrange the Seder plate: the Ramah, the Arizal, and the Gra. So I'm not going to go into it right now, but the Ramaz is very simple because there's a halacha called ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. That means that you're not allowed to skip over a mitzvah and go to do another mitzvah. So the order, in case you don't have like a good picture of the Arizals or the Gra, well, you still want to do it like the Ramah. So the way to arrange it is that the first thing, if I have a chance, I'll send it out. It's probably very important to see it. That the first thing that hits you is going to be Kadesh, and then it's going to be Chatz, and then Karpas, and everything goes in order, again, Seder. Okay, now, the Seder plate should have 3 matzahs, according to most Mefarshim, 2 matzahs, according to the Gra, piled up. You should have Morah, and the Morah could be romaine lettuce, or according to Rabbi Kotler Zatzal, plain lettuce. Or chazeres. Chazeres means horseradish, and horseradish, some people have a chunk of horseradish. Be very careful. You could, hate to say it, kill you. Charai says every year that we were in the hotel, there was a guy nearby me that I used to call him the Rainbow Jew. He used to turn a lot of colors when he ate the Morah. So it's not such a good thing, Rabbi said. The Zraya is on the table, and it's on the plate, and that could be a roasted bone or a chicken leg or a wing, and the beitza or the beya is a roasted egg. The zraya represents the carbon pesach, and the beya represents the carbon chagiga. We don't eat either one. The karpas, of course, can be any of the following: celery, parsley, potatoes, depending upon your minhag. Now, this year that there's no Shabbos Seder, there's no Friday night Seder, so I'm going to use Reb Moshe's shiurim for a moment. So it's not a good idea to have a very large kais because you have to drink roiv kais. Now, roiv kais of like a very large, let's call it Elio Navi kais, like again, that'll kill you, and they'll certainly make you shikker. So you can have a kais that's 3 ounces. It looks like almost nothing, but if you drink the whole kais, you were makayim Reb Moshe's shiur, which is 2.9 plus a little bit. You drank the whole kais, and then it's very easy to drink 4 kaises of the strongest wine. It's not going to be a problem. Okay, now we're going to go back into this in a minute. Okay, I'm not going to run through. I did most of the Kaddish or Chatz thing. So let's move on to, okay. So there's 5 mitzvahs that we do on the night of the Seder. So 2 of the mitzvahs are deraisa, and 3 of the mitzvahs are derabbanan. We'll see what they are in a moment. So the mitzvahs deraisa are the mitzvah of eating the matzah. And when do we do that? So we do that in Maitzi Matzah, we do it in Kairech, and we do it in Safon. Now, it's interesting, Safon is the Afikaimen. So the Shita of the Rajbam in Psachim, I was going to say Bava Basra, that's where there's a Rajbam also. But in Psachim, the Rajbam kind of like owns Perak Arvi Psachim. And the Rajbam over there says that the Iker of the Kiyum of the mitzvah of Achilas Matzah is with the Afikaimen. So don't eat so much that you're not going to be able to eat a kazayas, and preferably 2 kazaysim of Afikaimen. Okay? And that's where this comes in. The Afikaimen, there's never enough Afikaimen, even for one kazayas of the guy that's leading the Seder. Kavachem anybody else at the Seder. So you have to have a pile of matzah that's ready to go to take. Now, what's the second? That was the first mitzvah dairaisa of all the eating of matzah. The mitzvah of Sipu Yitzias Mitzrayim is a dairaisa, and the format is she'ela utshuva, and also the format is maskul bignosa masayim b'shevach. Some hold that all those are dairaisis. So let's just go through that for a second. So first of all, you have to have questions and answers. Now, again, brisk, a little bit of a brisker Torah, and I do this also. I'm not such a brisker, but this seems to make sense to me according to the Rambam's Lashon, that the Bala Seder, even the one that's leading the Seder, should not rely upon the kids or anybody to ask Manishtana. He should say the Manishtana himself also, because Derech She'el Tshuva doesn't mean he asks a question and I give the answer. It means that we both said the question and the answer. So the question is, Manishtana alai lazeh. The answer is Avodah Mayuno, etc., etc. We go on, and everybody should say both. And then the mitzvahs d'Rabbanan are as follows. Arba Kaisis is a d'Rabbanan, Morah today is a d'Rabbanan, and Halal today is also a d'Rabbanan. Okay, now, let's go through. I'm going to skip around because I want to get to some things that are very, very important. So I'm trying to skip in my notes a lot. There's an interesting halacha. I don't know if anybody is going to have a Sephardi who is not a Sephardi at their Seder, or anybody who's a Sephardi who's going to have Ashkenazim at the Seder. So the lechem aponim in the Beis Hamikdash actually was matzah, but it was matzah that was 4 inches thick. And a lot of the Sephardi matzahs are 4 inches thick. So, but an Ashkenazi, according to many poskim, is not allowed to eat those matzahs. Now, we want to have togetherness, but we're not allowed to eat it. And therefore, we have to be very, very careful when we're eating with Sephardim. They're also eating Kehillas, and Ashkenazim are not. But that's fine. You can still have a Pesach together. Let me go a little bit further over here. Oh, by the way, the one that holds that it's usher for an Ashkenazi to eat it, I forgot to mention, is the Alicha Shloimeh. That's Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Other parts come also, but he was very mekel, Reb Shlomo Zalman. On this, he was very machmer. Okay, now let's go to Heseba. So Heseba, when you're eating matzah, you have to do Heseba, and if a person did not do Heseba for some whatever reason, so then he has to do it over. The Afikaiman, you don't have to do it over, but you should do Heseba by the Maitzi Matzah and by the Afikaiman, and also by Kairach. Now, how do you do Heseba? So there's a number of ways. the way that Reb Shlomo Zalman brings it, which is very, very practical, he says you put your left elbow on the arm of your chair or on the table, and you cross one foot over the other leg. In other words, you cross your feet. Why would you do that? So Reb Shlomo Zalman says, and it's really based upon the Mishnah Berurah and the Chut HaShani, that there's also one of the recent Gedolim, that this is royalty and luxury. That's how we're supposed to do it. Don't do it in such a way that it's very uncomfortable, because that negates the whole point of acting like kings and acting like free people. So none of us are particularly used to Haseba, but Haseba, we paskin, not like the Rav Yor. The Rav Yor, by the way, was one of the Rishonim that held that we don't do Haseba Bisman Hazeh because it's not our way. Okay, women, the meaning by women is that they don't have to recline, they don't have to lean over, but they're allowed to, because it says in Shulchan Aruch that their sabers for nashim chashuvais. So the Shulchan Aruch says, "Kol anashim shalonu chashuvais." All of our women are important. So if they're important, they're allowed to do it, but they don't have to do it. And in many sifrei halacha, it says that it's not the minig even for women to do it. Okay, let's talk about shiurim a little bit. So we take the uppermost matzah, there's 3 matzahs, and we take the middle matzah, and the 2 matzahs are held together. And the reason that we eat a kazayas from each one of them is because we want to be mekayem, the mitzvah of lechem oini. On the other hand, one of the matzahs is not broken. Why? Because we had lechem mishnah, which has to be a whole matzah. So when we broke the middle matzah by yachatz, so we put part of it away, the larger part for the afikaiman, and then we take the smaller part. So now, by achilas matzah, theoretically, you could be yaitza with 1 kazayas. The briskers all hold that you have to have 2 kazayasim. 1 kazayas for the mitzvah of al achilas matzah, and 1 kazayas for hamaitzi lechem min haaretz. Now try to remember, please, that these are 2 different types of brachas. Hamaitzi lechem min haaretz is a mitzvah of birchas hanenin. It's a bracha that we make hamaitzi the whole year, like we make a barim b'imnei zaynis or shakal niyabidvara. But al achilas matzah is a mitzvah, is a mitzvah, a birchas hamitzvahs. So now, how much do you have to eat? So now, I want to tell you something that's very, very negay. A lot of people don't know this. It depends on the thickness of the matzah, how much you have to eat. It doesn't make sense that there's 1 shiur for a big thick matzah, one of these clunky matzahs that you're mamish breaking your teeth on, and a thin matzah. I'm not going to say which bakeries produce what, especially this year, everybody got whatever they were able to get. But I'm going to tell you the shiurim now very quickly. A very thin matzah, so the shiur is a half a matzah like that, is a kazayas. If it's a medium thick matzah, so then it's about 40% of the matzah, which is 2/5, is a kazayas. If it's a thick matzah, you need much less, because the volume is much more, and therefore you can eat 1/3 of a matzah is a kazayas. That's the hand shmura. The machine shmura, I'll go over this again, is those the square matzahs. So 2/3 of a matzah, because they're all pretty regular, they're all uniform. So the 2/3 of a matzah is a kazayas. Okay, they should try to eat a little bit more. Now, Reb Moshe holds that. How do you do this? So Reb Moshe holds this is the best way to do it. Is you break off 1/4 of the top matzah and 1/4 of the middle matzah, and you eat them together. That way, you have a half a matzah, and we said that a half a matzah is a kazayas. So that's the minimum. That's to be yaitza with one kazayas. Okay, so let me run through this again very quickly. Very thin matzahs is a half a matzah is a kazayas. A medium matzah is 2/5 or 40% is a kazayas. A thick matzah is 1/3, which is a kazayas. And machine, that was all the hand shmura. The machine shmura is 2/3 of a matzah. Now, this year we're being very makel. If anybody wants to eat a machine shmura, that's okay, but make sure it's shmura, at least if possible, 18-minute shmura. Doesn't have to be there's all sorts of fancy ones, but at least the 18 minutes for the Seder. And if possible, I recommend that at least for the Seder itself, not saying the whole first 2 days, so you should eat only hand shmura. Some people say, by the way, that the machine shmur can actually be less problems of chametz than hand. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the mitzvah of making ushmarta matzahs that they say every time they make the matzah. So they say the words. They say l'shem matzahs mitzvah, which is not said so much in the factories. So now, if you're the leader of the Seder, so I just want to tell you a little bit of a chiddush over here. Many poskim hold, including it comes from the Shulchan Aruch itself, that the leader has to eat two kazesim. So, in other words, like this, it's really a total of a kibetza or a kabeya, and it's the size of an egg. So how much is that? So on the very thin matzahs, that's one entire matzah. This is for the leader only. For the medium thickness, it's approximately 4/5. That's 80% of a matzah. And for the thick matzahs, it's 2/3. This is a kabeya. So what's the difference between the leader or not? Because the leader is being mitzi everybody with lecha mishnah, and in many families, he's the only one that makes these two brachas, mitzi lechem min haaretz and al achilas matzah. Now, it's not true in every family, and there are a lot of families, everybody makes it. But the reason that I'm saying is as follows, especially now, there's a little bit of a shortage of matzahs, and let's say that only the leader is being mekayim lechem mishnah, because he's got two whole ones, and then he's breaking one. So you have to have lechem mishnah minimum. It has to be like Shabbos. So if you are doing that and everybody's just answering amen, so you got to eat the double kazayas, and that's what I do. Now the shiur of toch kedei achilas pras is very important. You can't eat this kazayas, or if you're eating two kazayasim, in more than 9 minutes. Now I really personally can't imagine anybody that needs more than 9 minutes, but it shouldn't be more than 9 minutes. It should, however, be as little as 2 minutes. So the Chazon Ish holds 2 minutes. Rabbi Avram Chaim Noah holds 9 minutes, and in between there's a lot of different shitas. So you have 9 minutes if you need it, and if you can eat it in 2 minutes, even better. Don't choke yourself, chas v'shalom. Okay, because you could rely on Rabbi Avram Chaim Noah. He was a wonderful paisik. He was actually the Lubavitcher paisik in Eretz Yisrael at the time. He had a Lubavitcher Kehillas, Chabad, but he was a paisik for all of Klal Yisrael. So he wasn't just a Chassidish paisik, but he was a very, very big paisik. You can rely on his 9 minutes if you need it. Okay, so very quickly, 3 matzahs at the Seder plate. 2 of these, the top and the bottom, are meant for lechem mishnah. The middle one is broken for yachatz, and all 3 matzahs are held at once in the beginning. And then you drop the bottom matzah, and then you have the lechem aini, which is the broken one, and the one for lechem mishnah is the top one. Okay, now. What about somebody that finds it difficult to eat matzah? So if you're not makbid on gebruchts, and some places come hold even if you are makbid on gebruchts, so you can loosen it with water, with juice, or with wine. So, people that later have bad teeth or something, or no teeth, et cetera, et cetera. So you can crush and crumble it. And the Bir Halacha brings this in Tav Samach Aleph, that it's mutter to do this. And according to Paiskim, and by the way, you could dip the matzah into wine if you're not makbid on gebrachts. And then there are those that hold like this. Gebrachts is only a derabanan at best, maybe even it's just a minig in some circles, right? Chassidish Yidden, and not even all the Chassidish Yidden. The Chassidim from Lithuania, like if I'm not mistaken, Chabad, are not makbid on gebrachts. But the Chassidim of Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania were makbid on gebrachts, and yet many poskim of that group that are makbid on gebrachts, they say that it doesn't stand up to a dairaisa. We just said achilas matzah is a dairaisa, so you have to be mekayim the mitzvah, and if you can't do it without kind of diluting it, so then dilute it. Don't worry about the gebrachts. Okay, let me just skip a little bit more. So by kairech, we said that you have to do a seba, but if you don't do a seba, you're also yaitze. Okay, now what's the shiurim for kairech? So let me give the shiurim for kairech now. So if you're using the henchmur, the round matzahs, so very thin matzahs, you need only 1/3 of a matzah because you're adding the Morah. The medium thickness is a quarter, which is a 25%, obviously a quarter of a matzah. The thick matzahs, all you need is 1/5, 20% of a matzah. The machine shmura, you need 1/3, and about romaine lettuce, you need leaves. Now, by the way, this is not just romaine lettuce. This is according to Rabbi Kotler. You can use the regular lettuce, the iceberg lettuce. Now, I'll tell you the truth. actually prefer the Rabbi Cutler iceberg lettuce because of bugs. Bugs are a terrible, terrible thing. And of all the averos we're talking about that chas v'shalom somebody can fall into, the bugs, eating bugs, chas v'shalom on Pesach, when we're trying to really do the right thing, is 9 lavin. Rabbi said that's the Gemara says in Makkas. Sometimes it's a little less, but it could be up to 9 lavin. So anyway, so make sure that it's checked or that we check it. Okay, so the leaves of romaine lettuce or green regular leafy lettuce is 1/2 of a large size leaf with the stalk. If you're only using stalks, 1.5 of a large stalk is good enough. If you're using really the grain, 0.7 of an ounce of a shot glass. That's right, a 1 ounce shot glass, and you don't even need the whole shot glass of the horseradish of the grain is enough. Okay, now let's do the shiurim for the afikaimen. So you have to eat a kazayas, which is the minimum, preferably 2 kazaisim. And again, within 3 or 4 minutes, worst comes to worst, you'll go up to 9. Let me see over here something else that I needed to do. Yeah. Now, you have to lean over for the afikaimen, but unlike, not according to the Rajbam. According to the Rajbam, if you didn't lean over by the afikaimen, you have to do it over. But don't worry, we don't paskin like this Rajbam. But we do paskin, according to everybody, that if you didn't lean over a proper essay, but leaning to the left, I'm going to fall over here in a minute. So leaning to the left is required for the achilas matzah that you're doing at the beginning of the Seder. Okay, we're almost at 9:30. I'm going to try to stop soon and take questions. Now, I want to do this about chatzais. We're all in the time period now where we change the clock, and the second Seder especially is going to be pretty late. So it's a little bit hard, and I'm not saying that it's absolute required, but it's a little bit hard to finish by chatzais. So lechatchila, we're supposed to finish by chatzais, and Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah says you can't go beyond chatzais, and the Bir Halacha brings that since the afikaimen represents the Korban Pesach, the Korban Pesach, according to Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, had to be eaten by chatzais, so we have to eat the afikaimen by chatzais. Now, a lot of people, including little old me, almost never made it to chatzais, to finish the afikaimen. So what do? So there's a tshuva of the Avnei Nezer, very famous tshuva in Orach Chaim, Shin Pei Aleph Seif Hey. So he made a t'nai. So I'm going to tell you the t'nai, and a good deal of Klal Yisrael uses the t'nai, although the briskers don't like it, but most people are not briskers. And he said like this. So you should take a kazayas by the afikaimen, and you should say like this: I'm making a t'nai. If the halach is like Rabbi Akiva, that the Korban Pesach can be eaten until Alois HaShachar, so then I'm eating this as a regular piece of matzah because I have many, many hours still to finish the afikaimen. But if the halach is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that the Korban Pesach can be eaten after chatzais, so then this kazayis that I'm now eating is the afikaimen. So the Avnei Nezer holds that after that, you can eat whatever you want because the isser of eating after the afikaimen is only when the Korban Pesach can be eaten. Now, I know that this goes against logic because a lot of people say, why do we say that you can't eat anything after the afikaimen so that the taste of the matzah will remain in our mouth? Okay, fine. But that's true that it only has to be, according to the Avnei Nezer, the matzah shel mitzvah has to remain in your mouth. So, but not the whole night. So let's say that you're doing other mitzvahs later on in the night. For instance, the Arba Kaisis, you just didn't finish by chatzais. So you don't have to finish by chatzais. And the Briskerov, and I could give you the page in the Brisker Agoda that I have over here, or the Mechas Yitzchak in Chelik Test. Also, some of them Zion discusses this. He doesn't like this t'nai either, but a good deal of Klal Yisrael uses this t'nai. Now, why do we eat the afikomen like this? So if the afikomen represents the Korban Pesach, so it makes sense because the Korban Pesach thousands of years ago in the Mirz Hashem b'meher b'yameinu, the afikomen represents the Korban Pesach, and the Korban Pesach had to be eaten ala soiva when we are satiated, satisfied. Right, so that means that's why we have the whole meal. We eat the shulchan orech, and then at the end of shulchan orech, hopefully we buy back the matzah from the kid that stole it or whatever it is, and we get it back, and we promise him all sorts of things, and then we can eat the afikomen. But we're not really hungry. That's okay because the Korban Pesach was eaten ala soiva, and we eat the afikomen also ala soiva. Now, what can we eat or drink after the afikomen? So there's a lot of poskim that say that you can brush your teeth after the Seder, but you should use it. You can't use toothbrush. You can use a toothbrush, I'm sorry, but not toothpaste. And a wet brush, you have to be very careful because there's problems of schita. So you can use a slightly moist toothbrush. And also, you can drink something that doesn't have a strong taste, because we said that if you're really finished and you're not using the tricks of the trade, so to speak, of the Avnei Nezer, so then what you want to do is not drink any wine, for sure not wine, and probably not anything that has a strong taste either, like even Schlivowitz, which is a Pesach drink. But you can have some soda. Many places can hold. You can have some tea. You can have something light. But most places can hold that you can't eat at all. Okay, I think I'm going to stop over here and take questions if there are any, and if not, we're going to stop over here. I think this is probably all we're going to do before Pesach already, because Thursday night, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, I'm not sure when. I think it's going to be about 8 o'clock. Probably maybe 8:15, something like that. We're going to have a virtual Shabbos Agadol drasha, unless the world has all sorts of nisim between now and Shabbos Agadol, and we can all go to shul and hear a Shabbos Agadol drasha. So we're probably going to have one on Zoom, and we'll send out all the information in Mirz Hashem, including the topic. So I'm not going to do an hour and a half. Don't worry. I don't think anybody's up for that. So they'll be down for that, but not up for that. So what we'll do is we're going to, Be'ez Hashem, have about like maybe 15 minutes of halacha, and then the rest will be hopefully some chizuk for Pesach and beyond. Maybe should help from Mirz Hashem. We should all live and be well and be gesund, and Kadosh Baruch Hu should bring us Mirz Hashem Mashiach Tzidkenu. Okay. Questions? Any questions?
Feitman, hi. Jamie, friend. How are you?
Jamie, go ahead.
Hi. When you're talking about the matzah before, you said you can dip it in wine. Can you also drink, say, grape juice or wine while you're eating it at the same time? Instead of dipping, you can actually drink it.
Yeah, you mean also to soften it up?
Right.
Yeah, so you can do the same thing, but only if it's hard. Like if it's very hard to get the matzah down, because lechatchila it's supposed to be tam matzah period. So for people that are in basically good shape and their teeth are doing okay, they're not going to fall out. So none of us can get to a dentist, by the way, these days. So I think everybody has to be careful. But on the other hand, try not to do any of this. This is for old people. They use all these things in nursing homes and old age homes, etc.
Oh, okay. But to drink some water along with it would be okay?
Yeah, to drink some water would not be a problem. Yeah, water, even some kind of soda would not be a problem. If it'll help it chew, that's okay. All right.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. So very good. So everybody, meanwhile, have a good Shabbos. We'll send out if we're going to do something else. If there's any news about anything in halacha that I didn't talk about, and there are things I know some people asked about the things that are closing that were open before. I will let you know. But if we need another session, it'll be sent out in the mail, Mirz Hashem. So in the meantime, I'm going to stop over here because I'm going to my rabbinic conference. But everybody should have a wonderful Pesach, Mirz Hashem. Remember, Ivdu Hashem B'Simcha. The Belzer Rebbe just wrote a long missive, not just as Hasidim, but the Klal Yisrael to be besimcha, and we should of course think of the chaylim, but we ourselves, if we have the schos of being by a seder and doing all these mitzvahs, because Baruch Hu wants us to see us that we're besimcha rabba mitzvah Hashem, and we say in the at the end in Ma'ariv, malchus of ratzon kibul alayim, we should be makabel kadosh Baruch Hu's malchus b'ratzon, and they should help him mitzvah Hashem. I see some little kids on the screen. They should be able to ask all the kashas. We should have all the terutzim. We should have a lot of nachas from them. We should be zochim mitzvah Hashem to gula shalem of Morah. Thank you for listening.